Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Gates channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for more daily drama updates and spoilers. Your support truly means a lot and helps our channel grow every day. The week of August 17th on Beyond the Gates is shaping up to be one of the most volatile stretches yet, with old wounds reopening, dangerous secrets refusing to stay buried, and several characters pushed closer to emotional breaking points. Vernon Dupree is ready to confront Bill Hamilton with an angry ultimatum, while little Hayley Lawson remains completely unhinged, unraveling before everyone's eyes and showing absolutely no remorse as she prepares to make one final attempt to kill Bill. But Hayley is not the only person losing control, because Tomas Navarro is acting out, Leslie Thomas is being forced to face an uncomfortable reality, Bradley Smitty Smith appears ready to go rogue, and Andre Richardson finds himself dealing with a threat far more frightening than he ever expected. As the week unfolds from Monday through Friday, every secret seems to lead to another secret. Every relationship carries another crack beneath the surface, and the people of Fairmont Crest find themselves standing on emotional ground that could collapse at any moment. Monday, August 17th brings Season 2, Episode 148, and Vernon Dupree is absolutely determined to stop Bill from setting his sights on Danny Dupree once again. Bill insists that he is sick but certainly not blind, making it clear that he knows exactly what is happening around him. Yet Vernon has no patience for the excuses and immediately tells him to cut the crap. Vernon wants to know whether Bill is secretly trying to rekindle his relationship with Danny, and the question carries all the weight of a father who has watched his daughter get dragged through enough pain already. Last week, both Danny and Bill explained to their respective family members how they believe their relationship is supposed to work from this point forward, with Danny insisting that she is fully committed to Andre and has no desire to return to Bill. Her parents and sister remain skeptical, however, and while they are willing to support her, they are also prepared to be there if everything goes wrong and Danny finds herself pulled back into the chaos she thought she had escaped. Meanwhile, Naomi Hamilton Hawthorne is back at Bill's desk on Monday, and her presence immediately sends Thomas Navarro spiraling all over again. Naomi was offended last week when Thomas accused her of marking her territory, so seeing her sitting behind Bill's desk is bound to make him wonder exactly what role she intends to play while Bill is unavailable. Naomi may simply be there because Bill asked her to be, but Tomas certainly will not see it that way, because he believes he should be the one stepping up and taking control in Bill's absence. That tension continues to simmer beneath the surface as Andre Richardson carries a secret of his own, one connected to the shadowy and troubled past he has deliberately kept hidden from Danny. Unfortunately for Andre, that past has now returned in the form of Heather Armstrong, the obsessive stalker we have been waiting to see exposed, and it is becoming increasingly clear that she has no intention of accepting rejection. Heather wants another taste of the life she once had with Andre, and she is prepared to push past every boundary to get it. When Andre tells Heather that it is good to see her, his words sound polite, but his nervous expression tells an entirely different story. Heather, meanwhile, is completely comfortable invading his personal space as she caresses his face and tells him that now he can thank her in person, presumably referring to the champagne she sent him. The entire encounter feels wrong from the moment it begins, because there is something deeply unsettling about how comfortable Heather is, while Andre looks increasingly frightened. Joey Armstrong has already warned Vanessa McBride that Heather has no limits and that she is genuinely dangerous, making this reunion even more disturbing because Andre now knows exactly what kind of person he is dealing with. Elsewhere, Chelsea Hamilton and Kat Richardson are preparing a controversial fashion pitch for a new handbag, and they suggest naming the design the Nikki. That immediately raises questions about whether the name is inspired by Nicole, especially since Leslie has a habit of calling her darling Nikki whenever she is dragging her, and Anita is so stunned by the suggestion that she essentially wonders whether the girls are trying to get themselves disowned. Tuesday, August 18th brings season 2, episode 149, and Bill Hamilton once again appears determined to flirt with disaster. Last week, he laid it on thick with Andre, making it sound as though Danny would come running whenever he called, and now Vernon is pushing back against that attitude while Bill refuses to simply back down. Whatever Bill has planned, the danger surrounding him is becoming more serious by the day, especially because Hayley remains convinced that Bill needs to die. If Bill gives even the slightest indication to Hayley that a reunion with Danny might actually be possible, her desperation could reach an entirely new level. With Bill still vulnerable at Garland Memorial, Hayley may decide that the only way to guarantee he never gets back to Danny is to finish what she started and smother him while he is still too weak to defend himself. At the Fairmont Crest Country Club locker room, Carlton Fitzgerald and Ted Richardson have a conversation that could mark the beginning of a surprising reconciliation. Carlton gives Ted a major update, and it seems likely that he will explain that he and Nicole are officially finished because Nicole would not commit to him and has now chosen to commit to Kyle Rollins. Ted then admits something he has apparently been carrying for a long time, confessing that there have been many days when he wanted to deck Carlton. Yet rather than allowing the conversation to explode into violence, Carlton essentially tells Ted that if he wants to settle the matter, he is right there, although he does not believe it needs to come to blows. Considering that both men are now officially Nicole's exes, there may finally be enough distance from the relationship drama for their friendship to begin healing, and their shared history could become the very thing that brings them back together. At the hospital, Hayley is also clashing with Ashley, and it seems increasingly likely that Ashley has noticed something suspicious about Hayley's behavior. Hayley is plotting to take Bill out while he remains weak before he has a chance to recover, and Ashley may be the person who tries to shut down whatever plan Hayley has begun putting into motion. If Ashley catches Hayley acting strangely around Bill, she could find herself standing directly between a dangerous woman and her intended victim. Meanwhile, Eva Thomas has some brutally honest words for Leslie that strike much deeper than Leslie wants to admit. Eva hates that Leslie is still stuck on Ted, and she also hates watching Leslie push away Marcel Malone, a man who is actually available and genuinely interested, while continuing to chase Ted, who Eva sees as a relationship that simply is never going to happen. That truth becomes even harder to ignore when Marcel storms out of Leslie's hotel room, leaving her to deal with the emotional consequences of the choices she has been making. At the hospital, Shanice Johnson receives an unexpected request, although it remains unclear whether the request comes from Bill, who continues to play his dangerous games, or from her own honey, Ted. Either way, Bill remains busy scheming while completely unaware that his life is still hanging by a thread because Hayley has not abandoned her murderous intentions. Smitty, meanwhile, disappoints Martin Richardson, continuing the uncertainty surrounding the podcast idea. The last time we heard about it, Smitty had essentially stolen the concept because he did not want to ruffle the feathers of Martin's campaign manager. But Tuesday could bring a change of heart, with Smitty possibly deciding that keeping the peace is no longer worth sacrificing what he wants. So Wednesday, August 19th is season 2, episode 150, and Jacob Hawthorne is bringing Grayson Perez and Ashley into the middle of his plans. Grayson and Jacob are waiting inside Ashley's apartment when she finally walks Naomi through the door, only for everyone to yell surprise. The celebration appears to have some kind of travel or international theme, with Tibetan prayer flags hanging around the room, a small piñata adding to the festive atmosphere, and what looks like margaritas ready to be enjoyed. For a brief moment, the mood feels lighter, almost like the characters are being given a small escape from all the secrets, betrayals, and emotional storms surrounding them. But in Fairmont Crest, happiness rarely lasts without something complicated waiting just around the corner, and Wednesday is no exception. Nicole's plans appear to revolve around Noah, with everything pointing toward her making sure he has the support he needs for his open mic night. It sounds as though Nicole and Kyle may be attending together, especially because Noah is excited about the event and expects plenty of people to show up. Kyle being there would add another layer to Nicole's already complicated emotional world, particularly because her romantic history continues to intersect with the lives of so many people around her. At the same time, Danny and Andre are both breaking the promises they made to each other, even though neither may be ready to admit it. Danny is carrying the secret surrounding Bill, while Andre is hiding the far more frightening truth about Heather, and both spouses have promised absolute honesty in their marriage, yet neither one is currently living up to that promise. Just the strain of those hidden truths is made even heavier by the fact that neither Danny nor Andre fully understands what the other is concealing. Danny knows Bill remains a dangerous complication in her life, but Andre does not know how much that situation may still affect her, while Andre is quietly being stalked by a woman whose obsession could place his entire marriage in danger. Meanwhile, Vernon has big plans for Anita Dupree, only for those plans to be thrown completely off course. Perhaps Vernon is simply hoping for some romantic time with Anita, but every time the two try to get close and enjoy a private moment together, somebody seems to barge into their home and destroy the mood. Their attempts at intimacy have become almost comically cursed, with the outside world refusing to give them even a brief moment of peace. Thursday, August 20th brings season 2, episode 151, and Eva and Isaiah are preparing to share some difficult truths with one another. It remains possible that Ava is speaking about the insecurity caused by her scar and the way it has affected her self-esteem, but the conversation could also circle back to Leslie and the emotional complications surrounding her daughter. Isaiah may have to admit that trying to juggle Leslie and everything happening around her is no easy task, especially when the past continues to exert such a powerful hold on the present. Leslie, meanwhile, has reached the point where she must finally confront the demons she has been carrying if she ever hopes to move forward. Eva's advice may be beginning to sink in, particularly the idea that Leslie needs to stop chasing the dream of being with Ted and instead allow herself to embrace Marcel. The complicated part is that Leslie genuinely does like Marcel, even if she has spent so much time pretending otherwise. Marcel understands that Leslie has a darker, more rebellious side, and rather than judging her for it, he seems to appreciate that part of her personality. That acceptance could be exactly what Leslie needs, even though admitting it would mean letting go of the fantasy she has continued to hold on to with Ted. At the hospital, Bill and Ted find themselves bonding over their shared history with the Duprees, an ironic connection considering that both men are exes of Dupree daughters and both have found themselves on the outs with the family. Ted may stop by to see Bill, and their conversation could become another opportunity for Bill to reveal how much he still wants Danny. If Bill begins dropping hints about a possible reunion, Ted may be forced to confront just how complicated his own history with the Dupree family remains. Nicole also finds herself reacting to something in a way that surprises even her, forcing her to examine the motives behind her own behavior. The most uncomfortable part is that this happens with Kyle right there, watching and trying to understand what is happening. Perhaps the issue involves Ted, especially since Nicole may still have unresolved feelings about her former relationship, or maybe the possibility of sex is creeping into her thoughts just as Danny struggles with her own romantic past. Kial has generally shown himself to be understanding, which could prevent the situation from immediately exploding, but that does not mean the emotional consequences will simply disappear. Nicole may have to confront the uncomfortable truth that moving forward with Kial does not automatically erase everything she once felt for the people who came before him. By Friday, August 21st, Season 2, Episode 152, the tension surrounding Danny and Hayley reaches another dangerous peak. Danny is once again facing off with Hayley, and with Bill's toxic little wife apparently preparing to make another move against him, Danny should probably stay completely out of the situation. But Danny has never been very good at walking away when someone she cares about is in danger, and this time she may refuse to stay on the sidelines. Her decision to involve herself in Bill's business again is enough to make Vernon, Anita, and everyone else around her deeply worried, while Hayley is almost certainly furious that Danny continues to interfere. Bill, on the other hand, may be absolutely thrilled to see Danny stepping back into his orbit, which only makes the situation more dangerous because every move toward Bill risks pulling Danny deeper into the chaos she has been trying to escape. Madison Montgomery then receives contradictory information from both Danny and Hayley, forcing her to determine what is actually happening before the situation gets completely out of control. Madison may be the one who shuts down an impending confrontation because the stress is already taking a toll on Bill, but with Danny and Hayley both likely throwing accusations at one another, keeping the peace will be anything but easy. Danny believes Hayley is dangerous, while Hayley clearly sees Danny as the obstacle standing between herself and Bill, creating a conflict where neither woman is willing to back down. With Madison back in the picture, there is finally hope that someone can look beyond the accusations and piece together the truth, potentially exposing just how poisonous Bill's situation has become. And then there is Andre, who appears to reach the end of his patience before the week is over. He threatens someone, and all signs point toward Heather being the target of that threat, especially if she tries to force Andre back into her life. Andre loves Danny and wants his marriage with her, but Heather is the kind of obsessive person who may believe she can destroy that marriage if Andre refuses to obey her demands. She could even show Andre the selfie of herself with Danny and use it as a weapon, threatening his wife unless he agrees to meet her demands. Andre may have no choice but to threaten Heather right back, but dealing with someone as unstable as Heather is dangerous because she does not appear to understand boundaries, consequences, or the meaning of the word no. Andre may ultimately turn to Joey for help, especially since Joey already understands exactly how frightening Heather can be. There is another complication brewing, however, because Randy Parker is reportedly tailing Heather this week, and he could potentially see Heather and Andre entering or leaving the same hotel room. If that happens, a single observation could create an entirely new wave of suspicion and put Andre's marriage under even greater pressure. Meanwhile, Bill appears to be reaching his breaking point, raising the frightening possibility that Hayley has already done something else behind the scenes. The longer Bill remains vulnerable, the more dangerous Hayley becomes, and every person trying to protect him may be unknowingly racing against a clock they cannot see. At the same time, Chelsea's unresolved trauma from her kidnapping continues to haunt her. The PTSD from what happened to her has not simply disappeared, and the memories of the psycho woman who once wanted to force Chelsea into marriage or kill her can still rise to the surface when something reminds her of that terrifying experience. Now, Chelsea is watching another dangerous woman obsessively stalk and threaten a man she knows, and Hayley's behavior may bring those old fears rushing back. The parallels between Chelsea's former nightmare and Bill's current nightmare are impossible to ignore because both situations involve a woman whose obsession has crossed every reasonable boundary and turned love into something frightening and deadly. As Friday comes to a close, shows Beyond the Gates leaves its characters surrounded by secrets, threats, unfinished relationships, buried trauma, and dangerous obsessions, with the feeling that the next explosion is no longer a matter of if, but when.